Good afternoon, everybody. It is so good to see you yet again. I just want to say that today is another great day. That's what I'm going to say. I'm just going to leave it like that. Um, in the research world, we always say that there are some things coming down the pipeline, and right now, things that are coming down the pipeline are amazing, and I cannot wait um, to share those things with you all. But tonight, we're going to be talking about accountability. Um, this is a continuance of the series that I have started. Uh, I wanted to do another video on Sunday, but there was no time. So you're going to get double up the latter part of this week. But anyway, it's so many angles because I just received something. So it's like my mind is like, where do I start? So I'm just going to start off how I got to this topic. So over the past few days, including this past Sunday, there's just been a lot of talk surrounding people doing things right. Um, I have talked about the instigators. I've talked about those intentionally doing things, and then it got to the point of me recognizing that some people will not take accountable or not hold themselves accountable for their actions, and because of that, that is sort of like that same dealing where you have someone who murders somebody or somebody who steals something from someone and they don't think that they get caught. They don't think that they will get caught. Let me put it that way. And so they just decide, oh, well, I'm going to live my life as if I never did this thing. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to say what I want to say. I'm going to do what I want to do because I'm not going to get caught. I'm not going to get touched until they get caught. And when they get caught, their hand is probably in the cookie jar, or we find your fingerprints on the cookie jar. We need to have a discussion. Um, it also don't help that I have been watching the Blacklist. So if I get it a little too heavy into the FBI talk and things of that nature from TV, that's where it's coming from. But that's neither here nor there because it still applies. Because even though people around you may not catch you or notice that thing at first, it does not mean that there is not a God, that there is a spirit, that there are angels, that there's demonic forces that have seen you do these things. And they're laughing because, or not really laughing, but they're sit back and watch to see how long you're going to carry on this charade of unaccountability, and until you hit that brick wall, and then it's I got to be held accountable for my actions. And I had a conversation last night with a friend of mine, and she began to talk to me about another friend of hers, and he dated this young lady, and she broke his heart basically. And I'm shortening up the story. There was so many details. Um, she broke his heart to the point where he wanted to go out and date somebody else, but intentionally break that person's heart the way that this young lady broke his heart. And she had the conversation of saying, how did you come to that conclusion of that being okay? Because that's not okay. Because now you're starting a chain reaction. And a lot of people do that in society. And I began to tell her, that mirrors a lot with some of the people that I've come across in the field of HIV. So there's this thought that somebody hurt me, they gave me HIV, and so now I'm going to give HIV to somebody else. That is a psychological thing that is happening in their minds, where they're not even operating out of a place of wholeness. They're not operating out of a healed body and mind. They are literally operating on the remains of something that fractured their spirit, their heart, their mind months, years, weeks ago. And because that person did not properly heal, they hold on to that little piece of hurt, that little piece of pain. And on the outside, they may push it back, and say, I'm not going to address this thing. And they live their lives, and eventually it gets to a point where they're smiling on the outside, but there's this little piece of hurt on the inside that they are not recognizing. They pushed it so far back that they don't even realize that it's there. They're trying to cover it up. And then when somebody does something to trigger that pain, it sends this twisted message of, I'm going to get you before you get me. And what happens and what's wrong with that situation is that now this person is tainting something so pure. Now this person is causing and inserting that same type of fracture in their lives into someone else's life, and it causes a chain reaction. And that's why when most of the time when people talk about a flock together, they all have the same, in a flock rather, they all have similarities. They all sound the same. They all talk the same. They all think the same. And it's because they recognize that there's these little fractures. And, we like fracturing other people. And the problem with that is that people begin to hurt other people. Now, how does that relate to the series? Well, somebody did something to you years ago, and now you have gotten your status. You've become the head deacon, the head mother. You've become a pastor. You've become a bishop or an apostle of the gospel, and because I have this title now, you have to now do as I tell you to do. And when you disobey my orders, I'm going to say that you are disobeying God. And, that is not true. That's not true. The person is going against your wishes, your wants. And now you're trying to demonize. You're trying to criticize to the highest extent. And the way to say that is to say that I am a man and woman of God, and how dare you mock me? How dare you defy what I'm telling you to do? Well, it's because it's called free will that God has given us. God has given every last single person on this earth free will. And to sit up here and say and act like that person is too not a man or woman of God is to say that it's you saying that I don't recognize you as a child of God. That's an underlying message. Whether you think that outwardly or not, that is the underlying. Because when another child of God sees another child of God, they're going to instantly recognize that this person is a child of God, irregardless of my feelings towards this person, irregardless to what this person has done in their past, irregardless of how they present themselves and how they come into the ministry or the space. Let me put it that way. I will always recognize that this person is also a child of God. And then I'm also going to recognize that just because this other child of God decides to not listen to me, that's okay. And I'm going to tell you why it's okay. It's okay because you're not here to control each other. You're not here to punish that other person, right? When you I'm gonna put a tab there because when you are a parent, you parent your own child. You chastise your child, right? Because that is my child. And there's some parents that say, I will give somebody else permission to chastise my child. That's the thing. But when God is going to chastise God's child, let God do it. You don't determine somebody else's fate because they didn't listen to you. Because what happens is if you were assigned to that person, God's going to reassign them to a new case manager, and they're going to still do what they were supposed to do without you. Because you did not hold yourself accountable as a person to help train and not control that other person. We're also going to take into consideration that, again, how you chastise your child may not be how God chastises God's child. Because why? You are not God. How God decides to punish me for any actions is how God will do it. And how you decide to punish, if it's not within, I would say, the guidelines of how God wishes to punish God's child, then you're operating in error. You're operating out of your opinion. You're operating in a space of embarrassment and hurt. So now I want to ask you the question, who embarrassed you? Who hurt you to the point where now you're doing the exact same thing that was done to you? Whether you have forgotten that or not, whether this is a situation of a church thing, a school thing, a business thing, a job thing, a social circle thing, anytime a person puts themselves higher above someone else, and then they do the exact same thing that was done to them. That's a chain reaction of that deep-seated hurt that's been rooted within, that now you think that you are not going to be held accountable for. Because depending on how you chastise that person, if it was outside of the guidelines for how God wishes to chastise this particular child, you may A, kill that person's spirit. You may B, run this person away from the source that God has asked or wanted this person to get their resources from. You can now disrupt this person's destiny because of your embarrassment and your hurt. Prime example, when God sent Paul, who at the time was Saul, to Damascus, told him to go on the street called Straight, and there you're going to find someone. Forgive me because I am drawing a huge blank right now. But the man of God that God sent to Saul first put up a fight. Like, you want me to talk to who? This man's been out here killing us and preaching against us, and now you want me to go save him? Oh, I can let him. God's like, and I can only imagine, and now I'm even thinking about Jonah in the well, because Jonah too had this same conversation. You want me to preach to who? Just destroy the city, because these people are evil. Like, I don't see why you're trying to save them. Just kill them all, and they can start life all over. And because he thought that he was going to disrupt how God wanted to punish these people, he decided, oh, well, I'm just going to go somewhere else. And guess what? Because he was trying to recuse himself from his assignment, he got swallowed up in the well. Right? He's the one that got in trouble. And so then God turns around and shows you another story where he gives somebody else a hard assignment to do. And instead of this person saying, I'm not going to check out, I'm not going to do this assignment, or I'm going to do things my way, I'm going to take it into my own hands, he did what God asked him to do. Whether he agreed with the plan or not, he did it. And guess what? Saul became Paul, changed his life around, and ended up being one of the biggest scripture writers in history. Right? Same thing happened with Jonah. After he was corrected and said, okay, I stand corrected. I was in the belly of this whale, and okay, I survived. Now what you want me to do again? He went and did the assignment, and the city was delivered. But now we're in an age where man is beginning to make himself higher than God. Man is, as they say, is smelling himself. Man thinks he's grown now, because man is man. Man is grown, and grown man is gonna think that grown man is better than God and knows more than God. And I'm gonna do things my way because this is what I believe God is telling me to do. So I'm gonna make myself higher than God. That's how Satan got to where he got to, right? Because Satan forgot that he needed to hold himself accountable as to who he was to God. And when people don't do that, they start running off. They start running off their Google Map system, and they just decided to create their own path. Not everything has to be ran off of that path. You have to follow the guidelines that God asked you to do things with. If he asked you to do things in love, why are you spewing hate from your mouth? If he asked you to go see your brother and sister, why are you not going to see your brother and or sister? Because they are not doing what you feel like they should be doing. That's not what God asked you to do. God asked you to deliver people, right? And how he tells you to deliver people, it's going to look different because each case is different, right? But the minute you go off that plan, that's when you run into error. So even if it is an assignment of deliverance, you now must ask yourself, okay, God, how would you like for me to deliver this person? Because the way you plan on doing it may not be God's intentions. You may inflict wounds and pain on a person. Ask me how I know. I'm glad you asked. Even when a surgeon is about to perform a surgery, there are certain guidelines and steps for a surgeon. Although this person is known to be a surgeon, depending on the operation area, that surgeon knows and has been trained to know that you don't just cut into a body. You have to cut into the body at a precision with a precise location, because what X marks the spot. And because that person knows that there are certain arteries and certain veins that you do not cut into, but you wouldn't know that unless you were trained, but you wouldn't know that unless somebody taught you and gave you the specific guidelines on how to insert that blade into a flesh to do what you need to do. That is what God does. So it's easy for somebody to say, oh, well, God has asked me to deliver this person. I'm going to deliver this person. Did you wait for the instructions on how God asked you to deliver this person? And so now, when you have not done that thing, and this person has now left the vicinity and have done all sorts of other things, and let's say the person unfortunately dies, that is what we call blood on your hands, because you did not ask for instructions on how to deliver this person, and you have decided to put your own ideas and thoughts. And because this person has died, you're like, well, I did my part, and mm-mm. And I'm not telling you to beat yourself up for these things if you did not know that that's what you did. But if you didn't ask for the how to deal with the person and just allow this person to leave your presence, you now have that responsibility is on you. That accountability part is on you. And what will happen is that God will get you. And some people call that karma, and then I've heard some church people say that they don't believe in karma, and it's like, well, what do you think that that if what did you think that meant when God said, "Do unto others as you would do unto yourself"? Because if you know that you're not going to go into the house and slap yourself, why would you go into the house and slap your wife or slap your husband or slap your child the way that you have slapped them? Right? No, you wouldn't do that to yourself. And if you do those things to yourself, then baby, that's a whole nother issue that you need to work on, because that's not what God called you to do. You should not treat yourself in that matter, period. But fast forwarding it. So as we're beginning to talk about accountability, and I'm going back to the HIV piece. I tell people all the time, if you said that someone has given you HIV, now granted, there are people that maliciously do these things to people. They trick them, they woo them. But there is also that one piece of accountability that falls onto you, because one, did you have the conversation? Two, did you get tested together? Three, was there a break and you didn't question what happened? Did this person allow you to think that, oh, nothing's wrong? Okay, well, nothing's wrong. We're going to use these condoms tonight. We're still going to put safety precautions, because this is my life. And I said that because I actually helped save this young woman, and she took to heart what I told her. She was a single mother, and she began to tell me how she was dating someone, and the guy asked her to get tested. And I began to ask her, well, is he getting tested? And she said, oh, well, he's a basketball player, and in college, and so they do things help. And I say, yeah, but they don't do HIV testing unless the doctors are not going to do HIV testing unless the person asks for it. And so she said, thank you. And I said, right. And I said, because the other thing is, if your results are negative and you got tested and then you sleep with this man, if it comes to that, and now you have HIV, it was because he didn't get tested and you went off of his word. You didn't, push the needle. And so when she came back for her results 2 weeks later, she said, thank you for having that conversation with me, because another thing I told her was, you have to think about, you have a son, this person don't. You want to make sure that you are giving your son your best self. And I began to tell her that if she was to get an HIV diagnosis, yes, you can live with HIV. You can live a practically normal life with HIV. The thing is, we don't know how it's going to affect your mental. And your mental state of mind can also affect your son. So she began to think about these things. And she went and asked the man, are you getting tested? He said, no, I don't need to. And she said, well, how is it that you're going to have me to get tested, but you're not going to get tested? And she said, he was like, stop pressuring it, or we're not going to be together. And she made the decision to not be with him. She said, I told him, fine, you can be by yourself and you can go talk to some other chick, but you're not dealing with me. And I said, wow. And so it's like, you have to take all of these things into consideration. That's why it's important for us to have these conversations about sex. And this is a taboo topic that, sometimes the church don't really want to talk about, but these are real issues that people go through. People really do get tricked into things and they're not held accountable for them. This is why you have a lot of preachers getting caught up in sex tapes and sex scandals, is because they don't want to be held accountable for their actions, and they want to first holler, oh, well, the devil made me do this, and it was sin, and I was so lost, and it was a weak moment. No, your flesh, yes, your flesh was weak, but you did something. You were not being held accountable for your actions. You didn't think that you were going to get caught. And now that you are getting caught, instead of owning up to it, instead of accepting the fact that you just wanted to have sex at this point in time and you got caught, you're now trying to blame it on the devil. You now try to blame it on demonic forces. You want to say that this person seduced you. Well, it takes two people to seduce people, for seduction to happen. Why? Because you just can't have one person being attracted to somebody else and then there's nothing there, and both of y'all get in bed. No, you both had to seduce each other in some kind of way. I guarantee it. I'm sorry. You're just not. It's just not happening. You can't have a one-sided relationship where it's a pleasurable thing, and then the other person is not getting pleasure. Now you can have sex like that. Uh, you know, I've heard stories all the time about people having unpleasurable sex, but sex is supposed to be pleasing, right? So if you're not getting pleasure out of sex, I don't know why I'm going here, but I'm gonna just say it. But if you're not having pleasure when you're having sex, then what's the point? Why are you having sex? That is something else. That is something else going on in you while you're having sex. First of all, okay, I got to go here, because that means that you were just using your body. You allowing things to happen to your body out of something that happened to you years ago, and you refusing to work on it. You're not holding yourself accountable for these actions until something big happens to you, until you get an STD or STI, or something, you get caught, you get pregnant, and now you're going to wake up, and when you wake up, how did I get in this predicament? It is because you did not have these conversations. and you're going to live in resentment because you're not going to fess up to your accountability, which is another thing that happens. You're going to resent people for being able to do the things that you were not strong enough to do. Being held accountable and responsible for your actions takes strength because you realize what you have become weak in. You realize that that is something that you need to work on, and then what you work on it. So be accountable for everything that you say, you do, and even think. Because, yes, thinking also is something that manifests from your heart. And what you thinking often comes out of your mouth. What you thinking often is the reason why you do the things action wise that you do. And it's because of all of these accountabilities that people don't want to fess up to, that people just think, oh, well, it is what it is. It happened. Or what happened just happened. No. Take responsibility for your actions. Understand that these things don't just happen. They were orchestrated by you because you failed to heal that thing within you that needs to be healed. That was for somebody because I guarantee that was not on my list of topics to talk to you tonight. So if that was for you, baby, stop. It's too much going on in the world for you to be messing up and slipping up that way. It's too many things happening in this world where you can protect yourself from all sorts of embarrassment and hurt and pain, but you got to make sure that you hold yourself accountable for your actions. No matter who that person is, no matter how much they woo you, if it's a bad space, if it's bad energy, if they trying to get you to do something new that's far-fetched and way out in left field, baby, don't do it. Because that's not your ministry. That's not how you roll. That's not how you get down. Let's not open that door. Because when people open these type of Pandora boxes, as people like to call them, these chaotic boxes, they find themselves in a whirlwind of trouble that they cannot get out of. And then they run to God, they run to churches, they run to their friends, they run to their families, they run to, whatever spiritual leaders that they believe in or practice, and they expect these people to save them almost immediately, when the problem is that they have begun to spin out of control from doing things that they perceive to be correct in their own plight, in their own light. And again, they're not listening to that still quiet voice that's telling them to turn around and walk away. Because that's another thing that happens. There is something, if it's something that you know, as my mom say, without a shadow of a doubt, that is not for you, and you ignore that sign and you go with that person, or you do that thing, you go inside that building and something happens to you, or something happens because you did those things, then baby, you have no choice but to just accept what had happened to you. Because you failed to pump the brakes when your accountability whistle blew in your ear. That is also why I'm laughing now, because I was talking to a young lady that I worked with last night, and she began to talk about some food. And she said, next time you see me going to McDonald's, tell me no, because I'm trying to eat healthy. So I blew the whistle on that. And she was like, but I don't got no money. And I was like, okay. So 6 weeks from now, I don't want to hear her talk about I kept going to McDonald's, because when your accountability partner tried to stop you, you said no. So, I mean, that's why people have accountability partners, to keep them on track. And if you don't have an accountability partner, no matter what what the subject is, I advise you to get one. We had these people and these friends that say, oh, I had to talk such and such off the ledge. No, that's a true story. You may need to take people off the ledge. You may need to give give words of wisdom to somebody so that they can understand that this is not the place where they're supposed to be. That's what you're supposed to do. That is how you show accountability. And it's not because, oh, well, this person didn't listen to me, so I'm going to tell them anything. I'm going to allow them to just walk away, and I'm just not going to deal with them anymore because they didn't listen to me. Who cares? Do you know how many people have never listened to me? And yes, I used to be the one that used to say, I told you so. But then I realized I had to get out of that. I had to cut on this light. The sun was going down. But yes, it gets to the point where you just stop saying things to people, right? You still say what God, spirit, ancestors, the angels whisper in your ear. It's so many people that watch this platform, so I'm saying all of that. But whatever that message is for somebody, you tell them that message. That's it. Don't add. The Bible even says, do not add to or take away from its content. And people do it all the time. And I cringe because I'm like, now what are you going to do when the author says, on September the 16th, 2021, you said, and I quote, and this is the scripture, but then you go on and add 6 more words to the scripture that was not in the original print. What then are you going to do when at the end God holds you accountable for those words? That's why in a few videos ago I said people need to stop preaching opinion and preach facts. Preach what Spirit gives you. It saves lives. Yes, if God is telling you to preach correction, God's going to give you the exact words to say. Yes, there are some people that are hard-headed and they need to be talked to in a very, very, very serious and real manner. But that is not the case for everybody. And you cannot come at Susie Q, who's been a nerd all her life, like you come up to G.I. Joe, because G.I. Joe is militant. You gonna crush Susie Q. And Susie Q is not gonna have anything to do with you anymore. And the minute that Susie Q sees you come around the corner, she's gonna what? Make a U-turn or go the other way so that you do not see her, because she don't want to receive anything that you have for her. And I do have another scripture that I do want to share. It's from Mark 12. And I'm going to read at the 6th verse. And it says, having yet therefore one son, his well-beloved, he sent him also last unto them, saying, they will reverence my son. But those husbandmen said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance shall be ours. And they took him and killed him and cast him out of the vineyard. Now, this is the part that I want you to highlight. This verse I'm about to read. What shall therefore the Lord of the vineyard do? he will come and destroy the husbandmen and will give the vineyard unto others. And so what was happening was that there was this vineyard and this um the man on basically, and let me put it in layman's terms, this man had all this land. um these people were stealing from off his land, and he sent the servants to say, hey, can you stop stealing, well, let's work this thing out. And they killed him. So he said, okay, let me send my son, because surely, to be sure, they're not stupid enough to kill my son. And they did what? They killed his son. So he said, okay, so now I'm gonna have to come down here and I'm gonna have to do to you what I really didn't want to do. I was trying to handle this thing peacefully, but since you did not listen to the messages that I was sending you beforehand peacefully, I'm now gonna have to lay my hands on you. And so when the Lord of the vineyard laid his hands, he laid them out. And what happened was he said, and now am I not only going to continue to do what I want to do with the land that I own, I'm going to now take your land and I'm going to give it to other people. Now the Lord of the vineyard took into consideration that I'm sending my son out to do this thing to secure my spot, right? And yes, although he was a little accountability, he was doing the right thing by sending out the people to say, hey, let's stop. Let's do this thing peacefully. Where the other, make sure I call them right, husbandmen got it twisted, was they decided to go off script and say, no, we're not going to follow what you said. We're gonna do our own thing, right? Because it don't make sense that you have all this, and we want this, and because of this, and then you think because you send your son to us that we're going to stop doing what we're going to do. No, in fact, we're going to kill your son too, and send word back that your son is dead, right? I'm going to hurt you because you sent me this person to work with, because you see that there's a peaceful thing for me to do. I'm just going to sit up here and tell you that no, I'm not going to do it peacefully. I'm going to do it my way. And my way is to, dismiss this person. My way is to crush this person. Baby, yes, there's a calling on your life, but we're not going to use you. We're going to set you down. Baby, there's a calling on your life, but I'm going to act like I don't see it because truly, God, I'm sorry. You made a mistake. Because you weren't called a person, but you see that there's a calling on their life. God has now made a mistake. But when there's a person that says that they're transgender, God don't make no mistakes. Oh, okay. I just maybe I don't know. On one end, you're saying God don't make mistakes. On another end, God made mistakes. I don't get it, people. I've heard these things. This is nothing that I'm making up. I have literally heard both of these things. But anyway, so they decide to kill the messenger. That's why they're saying, don't shoot the messenger. But hey, this is what that said. And I'm not gonna listen to that. I'm not gonna listen to this message. I'm gonna erase this message. And so now the Lord of the vineyard said, you know what? because you do not hold yourself accountable and refuse to do things peacefully, I'm going to now have to destroy you. I'm now going to have to make you start over from scratch. I'm now going to have to put you in your place. And what that looks like is, baby, I'm about to lay these hands on you. The hands that you didn't think that I would lay on you, I'm going to lay on you and either lay you flat 6 feet under or lay you to the ground and you got to start over. So, depending on the severity of the problem that you have dismissed this case and dismissed my child, is the severity of what I'm going to show you. And whether or not the effects of it takes place right then and there or down the road, you're going to know that it was me that laid these hands on you. So when you don't take accountability for your actions towards other people, just know that them hands of God that you always say, touch me, I want to be touched by God, may not be the correct touch that you want. Because God said, oh, okay, you want specific. And since you out here doing your own thing, I'm going to lay my hands. Oh, that was a great man and woman of God. They sure were. But did they do some things in error? And don't think God wouldn't do that. Oh, okay. So why didn't Moses go to the promised land again? He saw it, but please explain to the people why Moses didn't make it in, because he did his own thing when he struck that rock. God told him to touch the rock. No, I'm gonna show them. And he hit that rock with his staff. He hit it. God told him to touch it. I mean, that's somewhat to it, but I'm just saying, when you go off the book, when you go off the map, from how God explained to you how to operate something and run something, that blade falls onto you. And so now you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. And so today's topic, people, when you showing up for spirit, make sure that you're not showing up in a way that has created this space between you and spirit, between you and God, that says, I'm going to do my own thing. And I will not be held accountable for my actions because I'm doing what you told me. Are you sure you're doing it by the T? And this literally just came to me. But think about it. When you pray, that's why a lot of people say you got to be very specific when you ask God for prayer. Don't you just tell, hey God, I want you to make it rain. Okay. Now, we know that God is known for making it rain 40 days and 40 nights. Now, do you want him to make it rain 40 days and 40 nights? Do you want him to make it rain in a certain area? Do you want him to make it rain at a certain time period? You got to be very specific when you're talking about. And are you talking about, do you want a spiritual rain to fall on you to give you a refreshing of the anointing that God has placed on your life? Or are you talking about, do you want it to rain, walk into a building and it rain money upon your head? There's machines, there's game shows where you see the money. And I believe there's a whole song that this lady made that says, and I can't think of her name right now, it's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Are you talking about different men coming into your life, and how do you want these men to come into your life? Now, are you trying to say that you're trying to be a hoe in these streets, or do you want men to come and bless you in these streets? And that's what you mean. You have to be specific when you pray. So what makes you think that a God that tells you to be specific when you pray to him is not going to give you specific instructions on how to handle things? There's always a matching puzzle piece to your puzzle. That's why, and even when Habakkuk, with Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision, make it plain upon tables, so that men may run that read it. And I'm paraphrasing that too, but specific. Look at um Lord, I'm really forgetting this thing right now. Y'all have to forgive me. But look at the altar that God had Solomon to build. He asked for certain types of wood, certain types of metals. He gave him the structure of how it should be laid. The holies of holies. Thank you. Look what he told to be inscribed on this altar. Look how he told the priest to carry this altar. The instructions that everybody knew, you were not to touch the altar with your hands. And for those that thought that the altar was going to fall touched and fall dead immediately, like, God has specific instructions for everybody and everything on this earth. So don't go off book, don't go off record, and do your own thing, and don't think that you will not be held responsible and or accountable for your actions, because you will be. Now, take this all in. Please forgive me for not knowing the names. I'm not gonna lie and sit up here and act like, oh well, I forgot the names. Oh well, no, I really am kind of like, I'm not embarrassed, but I really do feel some type of way right now about myself for forgetting these names. But I'm telling them to you how they come. But definitely think about your actions before you do them, people. Think about them, because you have to be held. You will not have to. You will be held accountable, whether you believe that that's nothing that you should be held accountable for or not. You will be held accountable. And so I ask you to consider, not consider, to evaluate yourselves on your daily interactions with people, especially to those that have been assigned to you. How are you interacting with them? How are you treating them? How are you speaking to them? And does that come from a place of love? And if it's not, reevaluate yourself. Because a place for love, even in anger, you will know how to talk to people. You will say, give me a minute, let me come back, let's talk about this when I have calmed down. You go and calm down, and you come back and you can have a nice discussion. So I'm just going to stop it here. And until next time, be blessed. Whichever way that you want that blessing to come in, I'm just going to tell you to be blessed in it. Whatever blessing that you need, be blessed in it. You know the specifics, like I just talked about. You know the specifics of how you wish to be blessed. You be specific and you pray that to God. You tell that to God and expect it to happen. That's why I always speak a be blessed. I don't say I wish and hope that you are blessed. No, be blessed. That's a command. Be blessed in that thing that you want to be blessed in, and watch it happen for you. Good night.